You step out of the village expecting, at the very least, something resembling a path. What you get instead is a churned ribbon of mud stretching into a foggy nowhere. It's uneven, soft, and so deeply rutted that every step feels like a gamble. The ground sucks at your shoes, as if trying to pull you under. And when you finally yank your foot free, it lands in something far worse than mud. After a single night of rain, medieval roads become living creatures, swallowing cartwheels, breaking ankles, drowning animals. Travelers dreaded spring and autumn because both seasons turned entire regions into swampy traps. No paving, no drainage, no markers. You're walking blind in a landscape that refuses to cooperate. And the silence is unnerving. No cheerful caravans, no steady flow of travelers. Just wind, mud, and your own breathing. Then it hits you. You're not even sure this is the right direction. In the Middle Ages, getting lost wasn't an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. And that uncertainty only grows once you enter the tree line ahead. The moment you step beneath the trees, the world closes around you. Light dims, sound changes. The road, if you can call it that, narrows into a single-file path where branches claw at your clothes and your nerves. You hear distant cracking, but it's impossible to tell whether it's a deer or something else paying attention to you. Medieval forests were not peaceful. They were hiding places, dense, tangled, ideal for people who didn't want to be seen. Robbery wasn't a rare event. It was the ecosystem. With little centralized law enforcement, the woods belonged to whoever was bold enough to claim them. And those people were often hungry, desperate, or simply violent. Even local villagers warned their own families never to walk alone, especially at dusk. Ambushes happened fast, with no witnesses and no chance of pursuit. If someone dragged you deeper into the trees, you simply vanished. You start walking faster, trying not to look like prey. But the truth is, out here, everyone is prey. Because the forest is only the first predator waiting for travelers like you. You expect danger from criminals, but medieval roads offer a delightful twist. The people who demand your money might actually be the authorities. Or they might not. You have no way of knowing. Every petty lord, monastery, or fortified town believes it has the right to charge a toll. Some toll stations are legitimate. Others? A wooden barrier, a man with a spear, and a convincing tone of voice. Pay, or they confiscate something valuable. Refuse, and you're suddenly in violation of a local decree you've never heard of. Travelers hated tolls because they never ended. One day's journey could mean paying half a dozen times for bridges, ferries, gates, markets, or simply using the Lord's land. And if bandits realized people were forced to stop at these choke points, they positioned themselves nearby to take a second payment, the bloody kind. You reach the next crossing and see men waiting. Their expressions tell you nothing. Their weapons tell you everything. But even this corruption seems tame once the landscape itself turns against you. You finally reach a river, grateful for a clear landmark, until you realize there's no safe way across. The bridge in front of you looks like it survived a war. Warped boards, missing planks, rope rails chewed by weather and time. It sways in the breeze. You imagine what will happen when a human steps on it. In many regions, bridges were rare luxuries. Most rotted faster than they could be repaired. Some collapsed mid-crossing, taking carts, animals, and people with them. Travelers often attempted to ford rivers instead, misjudging depth or current. Many drowned. Many more lost all their belongings to the water. The ground beyond the river isn't much kinder. Marshland sucked in horses. Hidden pits, washed out roads, and eroded banks turned every passage into a puzzle with consequences. One wrong step, and your journey, or your body, disappears into the mud. You press on, soaked, cold, and already exhausted. But this is just geography. The next danger is something far more insidious. Sickness, traveling with you step by step. You think disease lives only in cities, but medieval roads are their own kind of plague. Dead animals left to rot, stagnant puddles breeding insects, travelers coughing, bleeding, and passing on whatever fever they picked up in the last village. Every cut you get from a branch, every blister rubbed raw by your shoes, is an open door for infection. Without soap, clean bandages, or even the concept of microbes, people died from wounds so minor you wouldn't notice them today. Add rain, cold, and hunger, and your body becomes a perfect host for illness. Even the landscape conspires against you. Swampy regions carried malaria. Cold nights triggered pneumonia. Dirty rivers spread dysentery. By the time many travelers reached their destination, they were barely alive. And some never made it at all. You feel a shiver that isn't just from the wind, but you tell yourself you'll rest soon, until you discover what rest actually looks like on the medieval road. Night falls fast, and with it comes a new fear. Where do you sleep? You imagine a warm tavern, a friendly hearth, maybe a clean bed. Reality greets you like a slap. Most inns along medieval roads were glorified barns, dark, drafty, crawling with fleas, lice, and rodents, bold enough to chew your belongings as you sleep. Privacy didn't exist. Rooms were shared. Beds were shared. Sometimes even blankets were shared, along with whatever parasites lived in them. The air is thick with sweat, alcohol, smoke, and the scent of too many bodies in too little space. And if you think the lack of comfort is the worst part, think again. These places were prime targets for thieves and con artists. Travelers fell asleep with shoes and money pouches. Many woke up with neither. Women were especially vulnerable. Men traveled armed. Doors didn't lock, and the staff didn't intervene. You lie awake, exhausted but alert, hoping to make it through the night without losing anything more than sleep. But dawn brings its own enemy, the weather that refuses to cooperate. Morning brings no relief. The sky has already turned an unfriendly shade of gray, and within minutes the rain begins. Not a gentle drizzle, a cold, relentless curtain that turns paths into rivers and rivers into hazards. Medieval travelers feared weather more than bandits. Rain ruined food supplies, soaked clothing, and invited hypothermia. Snow blinded and disoriented. Heat-wave summers meant dehydration long before you reached the next settlement. Every season had a way to kill you, slowly or abruptly. You try to keep moving, but wet clothes cling to your skin, chafing and chilling you with every step. Your boots fill with muddy water. Your cart, if you had one, would already be stuck or broken. Every mile becomes a negotiation with nature, and nature rarely bargains. This is the moment you understand. The weather doesn't just inconvenience you, it erodes you. And erosion is just the beginning, because now the psychological battle starts. Fatigue sets in first, a deep, dull ache that crawls into your bones. Then comes the uncertainty. Are you still on the right path? How far is the next village? How much daylight remains? No one knows, least of all you. Medieval travel meant existing between worlds. You weren't home, but you weren't anywhere else yet. Every hour felt the same, hungry, wet, tired and unsure. Days blurred together until people forgot why they set out in the first place. Isolation was dangerous. Too much company was dangerous. You could be robbed by strangers or overcharged by hosts. You could trust the wrong person or mistrust the right one and pay for it with your life. But nothing matches the dread of realizing how slowly you're moving. A journey that should take 2 days can take a week. A week-long trip can stretch into a month. Hope wears thin. And thin hope is exactly what the next threat feeds on. Other travelers. You hear voices behind you on the road. Travelers approaching. Relief washes over you, because surely more people means more safety. But the Middle Ages loved irony. Most travelers were as desperate as you. Some were sick. Some were starving. Some were running from the law. And when survival is a daily negotiation, alliances dissolve as quickly as they form. People stole from fellow travelers. People abandoned them at the first sign of danger. People lied about distances, directions, even the existence of villages just to keep resources for themselves. Groups could be safer, but they also moved slower, attracted attention, and created conflict. A fight over food or shelter could be as deadly as a bandit ambush. You greet the strangers cautiously, trying to read their intentions. They smile, but their hands stay close to their belongings. Yours do too. Because the biggest danger of the medieval road hasn't appeared yet. After miles of mud and fear, you finally spot rooftops in the distance. Salvation, you think. Civilization. Warm food. A bed. You're wrong. Villages were suspicious of outsiders. Travelers carried disease, brought trouble, or were simply seen as potential thieves. You could be denied entry, overcharged for food, or ordered to leave before sunset. Some villages had curfews so strict that arriving late meant sleeping outside with the wolves, literally. Even inside the village, danger lingered. Wells could be contaminated. Taverns diluted ale with unsafe water. Locals might blame strangers for recent thefts, fires, or bad harvests. Superstition ran deep, and someone who looked, spoke, or dressed differently could quickly become a target. You keep your head down, buy what little supplies you can, and leave before attracting attention. The road ahead calls again, even though you dread it. And yet, after all this, the medieval journey isn't done with you, because the road always demands a price. By now you've lost track of time. Clothes are torn, food is low. Body aches that didn't exist yesterday now feel permanent. Even if you survive, you understand why medieval records speak of travel as an ordeal, not an adventure. People lost money to tolls, goods to thieves, time to weather, strength to illness, and sometimes companions to the dangers along the way. One trip could ruin someone financially. Another could ruin them physically. Few arrived at their destination in the same condition they left. And the worst realization? No one will remember your struggle. Medieval travel was full of anonymous misery. Countless lives swallowed by mud, forest, sickness, or chance. You press onward, exhausted and changed. But before you reach the end, there's one final truth you must face. You finally see it, your destination shimmering through heat, fog, or rain. It feels unreal, like a mirage. You limp the last stretch, barely believing you made it, because most didn't. Medieval journeys were unpredictable chains of obstacles. A single broken axle, a sudden storm, an infected cut, a toll dispute, a wrong turn, or a hungry stranger could end everything. Modern travel is measured in hours. Medieval travel was measured in risks. Reaching your destination wasn't expected. it was celebrated. As you step through the town gate, you understand the brutal truth of medieval roads. Survival wasn't about strength or skill. It was about luck. More luck than any traveler should have to depend on. You made it, but you wouldn't want to walk this road again. And now you know why most people in the Middle Ages never traveled farther than a few miles from home.